The carry trade is unwinding in Japan. What is that going to mean for XRP and the future of the financial rails? Is Japan and other countries ready for what's about to happen? I'm going to give you a complete update between the US and Japan. What's been said, there's a lot of new information that we just covered yesterday. If you didn't see that video between SBI and the Treasurer of the United States talking about Ripple and XRP, that's what's up. But let's go into this information so you can be fully up to date. So I thought this was a great post to start with. X Finance Bully says, strap in, XRP is about to take the spotlight. As Japan's economy cracks, XRP lays the rails for the rebuild. By the end of the year, 80% of Japanese banks are expected to be using XRP, and the Bank of Japan collaborating with Ripple. The nation isn't just reacting, it's rebuilding its economic engine. XRP is turning remittances, exports, and tokenized assets into unstoppable liquidity flows. Faster payments means faster trade, real-time FX, and unlock capital from trillions in illiquid assets. While trade wars shrink GDP, XRP expands access, speed, and global reach. Japan's edge won't be tariffs, it will be tech. The future of economic strength won't be built with policy, it will be built with new rails. Are you seeing the shift? Now, this is an older video, kind of lays the groundwork of like what was happening earlier this year. I just want to play a little bit of this. I just want you to understand, though, this is from like when the trade war tension was happening.
Japan's economy shrank more than expected over the March quarter. GDP contracted by 0.7%, or more than 3 times the drop analysts had forecast. The downturn was driven by stagnant private consumption and exports, and the numbers suggest the economy was losing steam even before Donald Trump's tariffs kicked in. The US president has imposed 10% duties on most countries, with Japan to face 24% levies from July unless it can strike a deal before then. Trump himself has suggested that could be possible.
From Japan, I'm getting along very well with Japan. We're very close to a deal.
But Trump has also put 25% tariffs on.
All right, it doesn't really matter what happened, like the rest of that. Let's get a full update of like the trade deal and what was negotiated. All right, so here is that update. Japan will invest $550 billion in U.S. projects with investment projects selected and managed by the U.S. government. Japan will also increase U.S. imports of U.S. rice up by 75%, purchase $8 billion annually in agricultural products and $7 billion annually in U.S. energy products. The U.S. will accept Japanese safety certificates for vehicles, easing the path for U.S. automakers to sell in Japan without additional testing. Japan will buy U.S. commercial aircraft and defense equipment supporting the U.S. aerospace and defense sectors. The agreement also includes a framework for cooperation on critical minerals or rare earths, and the U.S. and Japan signaling memorandum of understanding in October 2025. Implementation of ongoing developments. The agreement is being implemented through a series of executive orders and memoranda, with the U.S. Commerce Secretary monitoring Japan's progress and updating the president of the implementation. If Japan fails to fund approved U.S. investment projects, the U.S. can respond by raising tariffs. So there's a reason here why Japan will probably follow through on all of this stuff. A lot of these things, like a country can say that they're going to do something, but sometimes the country doesn't follow through, right? And I think we've seen that across like the last 10 to 20 years, where countries say, yeah, we'll invest $1 billion or $1 trillion in your economy, and then like nothing shows up, or 10% of the money shows up. They have some guarantees here to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And so here is what is happening now. Now that you've kind of gotten the build up to where we are here, the yen carry train singularity. Japan's 40-year bond just hit 3.69%. It's the highest since 2007. What was 2007? Yes, the financial crisis. This is not a number. This is a detonator. Behind that yield sits 20 trillion in carry train exposure, borrowed yen, funding everything from treasuries to tech stocks to Bitcoin. For decades, this trade printed money. Now Japan's bond market is calling in the loan. But here is what nobody is telling you. The yen carry trend unwind connects to 9 other leverage pools, and they exceed $50 trillion. The treasury basis trade 1 to 2 trillion to 100 to 1 leverage. Hedge funds are arbitraging cash bonds against futures. One volatility spike triggers margin calls that will force treasury selling. Commercial real estate, $957 billion in loans maturing this year, 3 times the historic average. Regional banks hold 28.7% of those assets in CRE. 59 banks now exceed 300% equity exposure, which is awful. Private credit, 3 trillion. Interest coverage ratios have collapsed to 1x. Borrowers are covering interest payments with operating income. No margin for error. Corporate bankruptcies, 694 this year, highest since 2010. This year, running 12% above pandemic levels. That is alarming. Zero-day options, 51% of S&P 500 volume, $1 trillion in daily notional. Dealers flip from stabilizers to accelerants when volatility spikes. Japanese pensions, 4.4 trillion invested abroad. They bought 28 trillion yen in domestic bonds in 8 months, the largest reparation in 14 years. They are coming home. China, treasury holdings down 18% from peak. Gold reserves up 11 consecutive months. These pools are not speculative. They are connected through funding markets, margin systems, and correlation structures that activate simultaneously under stress. The question is not whether Japan matters. The question is whether you understand what Japan just told us. The unwind has begun, and we are starting to see a little bit of a panic, right? You're starting to see that in the market. Ripple is being utilized across Japan for cross-border domestic payment flows. And so what is going to be Ripple's role and XRP's role with all of this, right? And so let me just play this for you.
When do you think the reverse carry trade is most likely going to happen? I think they need XRP futures in place, and I think they need the ETFs lined up. I think all the dominoes need to be in place. The stablecoin.
Both of those things are now in place. We've had the futures market for over 6 months. That made way for the ETF market. We've had 4 ETFs. We're supposed to get a few more before the end of the month. This is now in play.
Bill is there. It could be passed very quickly. Tether has already pretty much moved offshore, but they've been told that they will be subject to the stablecoin bill and the US regulations. You've got MiCA in place. You've got the UK ready to go with their digital pound and the digital euro in the Eurozone. You've got all of these other large central banks ready to push their stablecoin and central bank digital currency, including the Bank of Japan. The Bank of Japan is ready to go with everything that they need. We're just waiting on oil to skyrocket. I don't know if that's going to come.
That is the last point there. Oil to skyrocket. Now, there are some things happening around the globe right now. You're seeing a lot of tension between Japan and Taiwan and of course, China there. We don't know how that's going to play out. We're still seeing tensions between Russia and Ukraine, and we're trying to get some resolutions to stop that war. Both sides don't seem to be kind of, working. There could be some things that happen in the Middle East. So there are these growing tensions that could lead to an oil shortage. Right now, we are not seeing that quite yet, but that could play out.
From a shortage or something that happens in the Middle East, but that will cause the Bank of Japan to have to hike interest rates very quickly, and everything will kick off. That's going to be the gunshot that I think is going to stir all this and make it happen. And it's going to happen way faster than people anticipate because everything's lined up, ready to go for when they kick this deal off. So I think after the 19th here in May, I think that's the last piece that they need in place is the CME in order to be able to hedge and profit off of this. You've already got the XRP ETF, which is a 2x leverage long futures XRP ETF. And then you've also got ProShares, which has launched their long and short XRP ETFs. No spot ETFs yet. I think all the institutions are on board. I think Jamie Dimon and Chase and JP Morgan are on board. I think HSBC, I think the BIS, I think the IMF, I think the Fed, I think the Treasury, I think the US, I think the BRICS nations. Everybody is green light, ready to go.
Interesting. A lot of those countries and partnerships that Jake was just mentioning, I'm putting a video together that's going to blow your mind. It's connections between all of that, Ripple and XRP. I woke up this morning. I wanted to build something special. I'm still working on that. So as soon as it's done, I will record it and let me know what you think once it comes out. All right. So yes, Ripple's move to ISO 20022 is connected to effort to thrust XRP to the front line of international finance. So the real question here is, as all of this stuff collapses, what do you go to, right? What do you do to transition to this new system, right? And is that when XRP is going to play a role? That is what I will be sitting and waiting on. All right, so that is the update from Japan. I will, of course, bring you more and more as we get more information, but things seem to be happening quickly, and we'll see how it plays out, ladies and gentlemen. Just be prepared for anything at this point. Here's Jake Claver. This gentleman we're talking about XRP could be included in state treasuries across the US. Let me just play this.
You signed 2 bills this year. So then, of course, you got the New York operations up there trying to allow state agencies to accept cryptocurrencies. So that would be something. Is this a growing thing at the state level? Can you share anything?
It's a movement. I think every state is sitting there and seeing there are benefits to digital assets, whether we issue municipal bonds backed by Bitcoin, like we saw in New Hampshire, or we issue licensing bills to provide clarity that the federal government is not providing right now to token issuers.
Really quickly, it's always going to start with Bitcoin, right? That is going to be the first thing that they go to. But then I'd imagine it's going to be, Ethereum and XRP and maybe even like Stellar and Chainlink. I would imagine it'll be like the top 5 or 10 most purchased, most valued assets going forward will be the ones. And maybe they will focus on US based technology. We don't know that, but obviously, Bitcoin is the first. And so just know when they're talking about Bitcoin, expect others to follow. That's how it usually starts.
To platforms, there is a growing interest at the state level to become hubs for digital asset companies. They are viewing this like it was the .com boom of the early 2000s, that every state in the country wanted to find a way to bring in talent that were helping develop and build the internet. We're seeing it now on the digital asset side. It is just the next wave, this Web3 wave. So I think this is just the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking next year and all 50 states have signed digital asset bills, especially as the federal government slow walks a lot of the regulatory progress that we want and that we are pushing for. We're seeing a lot from the agencies and the administration, but Congress is slow, as we just alluded to at the top of the conversation. I think every state's going to get involved. We just actually at the Digital Chamber launched the Digital State Network to be more active in the states. Our member companies that we represent are demanding it. They want to go into the states. They feel comfortable with what's going in Washington. They want to have conversation with governors, with state elected officials. And so we will be very active in all 50 states next year.
Remember, this is going to be widely important to get people in the state level and at the federal level, Congress people, senators, right? Each state has their own houses and branches and everything like that. And then you have the federal government where you have the House and you have the Senate, okay? And so all of these different states are trying to figure out how they're going to play a role in this new crypto future. As more and more voters own crypto, they have money invested into this, and it's very important to them. And they want to see pro-crypto, men and women out there leading the way at the state and federal levels. And so you're just going to get more and more people starting to talk about it. And that's how you really get the next 10, 50, 100 million people into the crypto market. Once it becomes mainstream, where we're just, that is like one of the main questions. What are you going to do with the economy? What are you going to do with, transportation? What are you going to do with crypto? Once that becomes a main topic of conversation and you have regulation, we're there, ladies and gentlemen. We are very close to being there. All right. And then, of course, Caroline Pham, she's been a great acting chairwoman of the CFTC. She posted something here, lock in from her personal account here. And she did this. And she's kind of maybe doing something similar to what Brad Garlinghouse has said here. I just thought that was kind of fun. A lot of people are pointing to that. Excuse me. And then Upbit is on fire. XRP is dominating again. XRP is #1 on Upbit with massive volume. I love to see XRP outperforming Bitcoin. Even Monad is outperforming Bitcoin on Upbit. That's pretty cool. Big shout out to Korea, man. South Korea is they have been pushing up the volume for XRP. Just gotta love that. And then Grayscale says, just want to clarify, I guess somebody had misrepresented their fee here at 1.5%. They just want to say it's 0% for the next 3 months, and then it becomes 0.35%. That is a big deal. If somebody's looking at this tracker, they want to make sure that it is correct. And then here is a chart on XRP ETF inflows. This was posted earlier today. And just take a look at the volume here and what this chart is doing. 600 million, we're heading up, but wow. And this is just within 11 days, 11 days. What is the next 30 days, 90 days? What is the next 6 months to a year going to look like for these ETFs? And of course, people need to understand that the crypto industry is so important to the future of finance, right? And we could talk 100 different ways why and how it's important, but people often buy crypto and they're not used to the ups and downs and they panic. And then they sell and then it goes back up. And I have made those same mistakes early on in my crypto career. Now I understand that I'm just gonna buy as it goes down, I'm gonna keep buying. And when it goes up, when it gets to the price that I think that I'm comfortable being here, then I'm going to make a decision. But until that happens, I don't even look at my portfolio because I know it's going to make me happy one day and it's gonna make me depressed the next day. You just gotta take the emotion out of it, know where we need to go, know where we need to be, and let me just play this.
I had my first big is an opportunity for you.
That is an opportunity for you guys. Remember, all of these dips, when XRP goes below $2, that is an opportunity. That is what I'm waiting for. I am buying. That is what we're all looking for, cheaper prices as we head up. All right, I'll leave it there. So much on my mind. I'm going to be making more content, of course, keeping you guys up to date. Thank you for being here. If you got any value, you can like the video. You can leave a comment down below, but just thank you so much for your time. I will see you next one. I'm Crypto Sensei. Happy holidays, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Travel safe. Spend some time with that family. You know, if crypto comes up, I'm hoping that you can explain XRP to them way better than last year. That if we can do that, we've achieved it all. All right.